understand that. That's why I'm trying to figure out how you can come to the conclusion right now that diversity had something to do with this crash.
Because I have common sense, okay? And unfortunately, a lot of people don't.
No one yet knows the cause of the fatal collision at Reagan National, but we do know this. Trump is a pathetic, opportunistic, racist maggot, and I'm being kind.
Do you have a plan to go visit the site or meet with any of the
I have a plan
responders?
to visit, not the site, because you tell me, what's the site? The water?
Or to meet with the first responders.
There are thousands of people deeply impacted by this tragedy, and this sociopathic, ball-sucking wife of Elon chooses this moment to make a joke about swimming in the water. But are you surprised? The same guy who mocked our dead soldiers by calling them suckers and losers, do you think he would have any other reaction other than to make this all about him?
I put safety first. Obama, Biden, and the Democrats put policy first.
DEI and the claims that you've made, are you saying this crash was somehow caused and the result of diversity hiring? And what evidence have you seen to support these claims?
It just could have been. We have a high standard. We've had a much higher standard than anybody else. And there are things where you have to go by brain power. You have to go by psychological quality. And psychological quality is a very important element of it. These are various very powerful tests that we put to use, and they were terminated by Biden. And Biden went by a standard that's the exact opposite. So we don't know, but we do know that you had two planes at the same level. You had a helicopter and a plane. That shouldn't have happened. And we'll see. We're going to look into that, and we're going to see. But certainly for an air traffic controller, we want the brightest, the smartest, the sharpest. We want somebody that's psychologically superior.
This guy, I don't know what I said.
As bodies are being pulled from the Potomac, Trump and his weak-kneed cuckolds are blaming this deadly crash on minorities and white women.
And I love women.
This is disgusting, and it's racist and sexist, and simply without one speck of evidence. Blaming this crash on diversity, equity, and inclusion ignores the real timeline. While we don't know the exact cause of the crash, consider this. On January 20th, Trump fired the director of the Federal Aviation Authority. The next day, on the 21st, air traffic controller hiring was frozen. The next day, Trump disbanded the Aviation Advisory Committee. Then on January 28th, a buyout/retirement demand was placed on all federal workers, including air traffic controllers, whose job is already incredibly stressful and has one of the highest rates of PTSD for any job outside the military.
Being an air traffic controller is one of the most high stakes and stressful jobs you can have. We talk to workers who are watching out for millions of us every day to find out who's watching out for them. First, let's talk about what air traffic controllers actually do. You've maybe flown dozens of times in your life and never thought about the people in the control tower.
We have the largest and most complex aviation network in the world. There's no other country in the world that can come close to the number of airports, the number of flights, the amount of traffic.
That's Bill McGee. He's worked in aviation for decades.
It's no secret that this is one of the most stressful professions you could possibly imagine. It is literally life and death. Whether it's Chicago O'Hare or New York LaGuardia or Los Angeles LAX, you're going to be encountering dozens and dozens and dozens of flights on that shift. It's always been this way, but it's gotten much worse in recent years.
Then the next day, on January the 29th, the first American mid-air collision in 16 years. Make America safe again? Not so much.
We have to have our smartest people. It doesn't matter what they look like, how they speak, who they are. It matters intellect, talent.
That is crazy.
And we just learned that Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia was among Senate leaders opposing the expansion of flights at Reagan National. Back in 2024, the Federal Aviation Administration Reauthorization Act was passed, which added 10 additional flights at Reagan National, which already had 3 of the nation's busiest runways in the U.S.
The thing that is so horrible about this moment is that there are dozens and dozens of families that are trying to be united with the remains of their loved one because they died yesterday. And that is something, there is a human connection that we all can feel about what that feels like, and an urge to comfort people. That's the most human of emotions. And what does this guy do? He tries to turn it into a political thing. This is why people hate politics.
No, this is why we hate Trump. And I'm not saying that Trump was responsible for this, but 2 points. Republicans, and especially the First Lady, think that caring for the mental health of pilots and controllers is woke. And now Trump is saying it out loud. People of color and women can't do the job. But what would this fustercluck know about working?
Breaking news for you at this hour. A federal judge is ordering President Trump to pay $2 million to a series of nonprofit organizations, part of a settlement in a lawsuit that alleges the president misused his own charitable foundation.
Look, there's a lot we don't know.
That has been cited by the New York Times, indicating that the controller that was on duty at the time of the crash was doing a job that's usually done by two people.
We have not reviewed any specific reports about the controllers at this time.
The New York Times is reporting that one air traffic controller was doing the work of two. And Reuters is reporting that shortly before the collision, the plane's pilots were asked to pivot from one landing route to another. And we're also hearing the Army helicopter pilot and passengers were wearing night vision goggles. But we do know this. 20% of the American population elected a true manic sociopath, a racist cauldron of insecurity and hate, who has sexually assaulted women, was judged by a jury to have raped Jean Carroll, and according to a former wife, raped her as well. He's a convict who can't vote in his home state unless DeSantis offers up his cherry ass and lets him plow it again. Everything wrong with Trump and this MAGA party can be seen right here in this clip.
We have a attention deficit problem in this country. You know, attention deficit, when you and I were growing up, our parents didn't use a drug, they used a belt and whipped our butt, you know, and told us to sit down.
What these witless bottom feeders don't understand could fill the Earth's 7 oceans. They think whipping ass straightens out confused young people searching for answers. But have you ever met a man who was beat as a child? They're angry and confused and swing wildly at anything they don't understand.
That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation?
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN.
Are you saying this crash was somehow caused and the result of diversity hiring? And what evidence have you seen to support these claims?
It just could have been.
They think DEI is about trans and minorities, but do they know this?
Okay, so this is hilarious. I just saw this white lady on here complaining that she just lost her job because she was hired under the diversity, equity, and inclusion program at her work. And you can see she didn't want to say it, but she really wanted to be like, but I'm not black. But that's not what diversity, equity, inclusion meant. The number one recipient of DEI hires is white women. The number one people who have benefited the most from this whole affirmative action and DEI hired has been white women.
DOJ and OMB also found that there was about to be 50 million taxpayer dollars that went out the door to fund condoms in Gaza.
We will survive Trump and MAGA because at their core they're weak. But today, our focus and Trump's focus should be on these families, the families of these victims of this crash who are in unimaginable pain. How do these feckless Republicans sleep at night? How do they look at themselves in the mirror? They don't.
Goddamn right.
This is not a normal election.
I'm as mad as hell.
Whether the women like it or not.
Suck my fat one.
I don't want to talk about this stuff.
Am I wrong?
They're eating the dogs.
You're an idiot!
I think he's crazy.
I'm Chip Franklin.